Well, good morning, Ashley. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you are here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. So, Ashley, you shared a really touching and personal post on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and that got my attention. And I reached out to you. I'm like, I have to have this woman on the show. So, I would love for you to share for the audience just a little bit about yourself, about your company, Mills Machine, and a little bit of what it was that got the attention.
Well, Mills Machine Works has been around since 1995. My father actually started the company in the basement of our house. And about a year and a half ago, the opportunity abruptly fell into my lap to actually inherit the business when he was actually passing away due to cancer. So we and my siblings decided, you know what? This business has provided for us our whole lives. It didn't make sense to just let it go. So
Mm-hmm.
we had all been working here at some capacity at the time. So it just was a really um, natural transition for us to take over the company. So that's kind of where we are today. You know, we inherited this company with no succession plan. Really, we thought he was going to be around forever. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
overnight, it was like, oh no, I have cancer. Oh no, I have 3 months to live. Oh no, I'm passing away. It was just very like rapid fire. He
Wow.
passed away on September 27th, and we had inherited the company on September 24th. That was like how quick it happened. So
Wow.
now we're rebuilding and reshaping and moving forward because that's really all you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so sorry about your dad, first of all. So, you have two siblings, right? That
I do.
also are in the business.
Yep.
And
My
is your mom part of the picture?
Yeah, so our mom actually started the business with our dad. She had a
Okay.
finance background and accounting
Nice.
background, so she really handled all of that. She had actually retired early when my son was born to take care of him, and I had actually taken over her job as like the finance person of the business. Um,
Mm,
like at that point, it was 4 years ago, so now it's
got it.
6 years ago. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Wow. So you and your siblings kind of grew up in the business.
yes.
Did you actually work, sweeping floors and doing other things, or can you share a little bit about your journey growing up in the business?
Yeah, so I actually the very first memory I have of the business, I was about 5 years old, so probably right around the same time that the company started, maybe six. My dad had me packaging parts into little plastic baggies and putting stickers on them, and I thought I was just doing fun stuff with him. Little did I know I was actually working and helping him do his like business. Like really, he was making these small parts, and they all needed individual bags and individual tags, and that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of my very first memory of the business. But then as I got older, I was a little bit rebellious as like a teenager. I had
Okay.
watched this business grow my whole life and I did want no part of it. I was like, no, I'm going to go do marketing. I'm going to go do photography. I'll see you guys later. Little did
Right.
I know that eventually I would find my way back here, um, kind of using that skill set that I obtained in different ways. But yes, he was very much like you're going to sweep floors, you're going to clean out machines, you're going to replace
Mm-hmm.
coolant, you're going to learn it all and clean
Right.
bathrooms, take out the trash. You know, really made sure that each one of us had a true understanding of every level of the business, right down to the grunt work.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's very insightful of him to do that. Although I'm sure you don't love cleaning out sumps and coolant. That's not the funnest
No,
job ever.
no, my
But
siblings still do it, but now I'm kind of like on this side of the wall a little bit more permanently these days.
so one of the things that you shared was that your dad was intimately involved with the clients at a sort of level of engineering and collaboration and helping them with projects, and that's something that you lost obviously when he left, and maybe that part of his skill set wasn't really transferred. 'Cause that would take years and years, probably
Yeah,
decades, to really be able to do that to the same level that he does. So yeah, I'd love to
yeah.
have you share a little bit more about about that aspect of your journey over the last couple of years here?
I would say that's been our biggest struggle is he had such a connection to people and he was so good at maintaining those connections. And it's kind of been like a twofold situation for us. A lot of the connections that he had are retiring. The engineers he worked with closely are retiring. And to be able to get our foot in the door with companies that we're already in with new people has been a challenge. Um, his skill set with customer service and sales and all of that was never something we had dove into because we thought as he retired, that was going to be his sole responsibility. We never
Right.
thought that one day he just wasn't going to be here. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was training my brother to run the shop floor and my sister to also run the shop floor. And my mom was training me to do all the finances and the bookkeeping. And, I brought in marketing myself and things of that nature, but the sales was always supposed to be him. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been a challenge. Like I'm not heavily inside of the manufacturing network because I was on the finance side. I didn't really dive that deep into, making connections with other manufacturing companies because I didn't think that was going to be my responsibility. And now it is. And I am
Right.
embracing it and I'm running with it. And my siblings are helping me. They have a big role as when the work's in, like they are focused. But my sister, you know, balances the line between the shop floor and the office. And, she's heavily involved with the trade gap or the skilled labor gap is kind of her focus as well. So we all have our individual focuses, but
Mm-hmm.
sales is something that was our dad. He was so good
Yeah,
at it, and
sure.
trying to trying to gain that skill set all on my own has definitely been a challenge. But I think I'm starting to understand, like it's just it's just people and connecting with
Mm-hmm.
them.
Sure,
And
sure.
we're a family run company, so we try to treat our customers like family. But it's hard when you face these big companies and you're trying to find that like family connection, but you still
Oh,
need like
absolutely.
that big customer. And how do you find the engineer or the buyer or the purchaser that's looking for that small shop that
Mm-hmm.
wants to do great things?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah, yeah. No small, no small task to learn what I have always said is one of the hardest businesses in the world. It's so technical.
Yeah.
There's so many nuances and details to understand. So has part of the learning that you've had over the last couple of years, like understanding blueprints and quoting and the technical side, and be able to talk to engineers about the designs they're asking you to bid on?
Yeah, so I got a crash course pretty quickly. I had actually kind of been starting to learn that stuff right before my dad passed away. Um, he started to get busy with other things, and he was like, "Okay, I'm going to teach you how to do a little bit of quoting." But his way of quoting and my way of quoting are two very different ways of quoting. I brought
Mm-hmm.
in spreadsheets, and he's just like, "I don't know, look up a number for material and ask your brother how long it's gonna take to run." Like, and I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that." I'm going to actually
Sure.
get produce some breakdowns, find out profit margins. I
Yeah.
started to like really tear open like what what quoting was really all about. And this past year, at our busiest times, we were short staffed, and I was out there learning to run machines because somebody had to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I've learned, reading blueprints and understanding what machines we have and how they run and why we use things. And like, I've learned a lot in a very short amount of time. I don't think I could run this business without my siblings by any
Mm-hmm.
means, but I could probably find people if I had to. Not that I want to, because I
Sure.
could not do this without them, but
Yeah.
just from the
Yeah.
financial side of running a business to having to know every single aspect of the business has been definitely an experience.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So I'm curious to have you share a little bit about what the company specializes in, what kind of equipment, and what it looked like, employee count, machines when your dad passed, and have you changed that at all? Have you got
Oh
different
yeah.
equipment? Yeah, just love to have you share about that.
Yeah, so we're in a very delicate transitional phase as a company. When my dad was alive, he was known for doing the impossible. Um, companies would, I'm not even sure if I can say these companies out loud without getting in trouble, so I'm just going to kind of glaze
That's
over
fine.
it. But
Yeah, no
this,
problem.
these companies, really big name companies, would come to him and say, "Hey, we have this black and white picture of this machine that's broken, and it's like from the 70s. The picture is from the 70s." And my dad was like, "Do you have any blueprints?" And they were like, "No." And he's like, "Okay, what does it do?" And they told him what it did, and he had to completely reverse engineer from a picture and
Wow.
build a machine to do what they needed. So he was really heavy in the machine design,
Hmm.
solving problems sector, which,
Yeah.
unfortunately, when he passed away, um, those customers don't know that we can do that, or don't necessarily trust that we can still do that without him. So we've
Hmm.
had to really change from being a very specialized shop into being a job shop, and find out our new special, like, offerings of our
Hmm.
own. Um, and I would say our employee count hasn't really changed much from when he was alive to
Got it.
now. And what we haven't added any new equipment yet. We have some big plans to add some new equipment, but we're in a very delicate moving pieces. We're essentially a new company. We can't do the same things, or we're not trusted to do the same things that we were doing before. So we could close the doors, or we could pivot, and we're pivoting.
Hmm.
So right now we're transitioning into a job shop. What we were a job shop before, but with a very specialized focus.
Yeah.
Now we've not that we want to drop that altogether, and we would definitely open um, our arms wide for work like that. But our like new kind of niche that we have going on is our machines aren't enclosed. So that means we can do big parts at
Mm.
I always say this backwards. My brother yells at me. Our Y is 60 inches, but our X is 7
Unlimited.
feet,
Yeah.
unlimited. We have a wall at one of our machines that literally is designed to collapse and be moved out of the way if we have to throw a 12-foot part on it. All of our
Hmm.
machines are at a slight angle so that they do not run into each other. So we can,
Right.
like, it's just the way my dad designed the shop for these large parts was pretty genius. And now
Mm.
we're kind of running with that it was, we can do big things. We love big
Sure.
plates, we love big challenges. um,
Right.
so that's definitely been where we're changing as a company. So maybe no
Sure.
longer doing machine design, which we can do if anybody out there wants to trust us with
Hmm.
that. But we're going to specialize in having this really large
Sure.
availability. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But a little bit more build to print. They have it
yeah,
designed. They don't need you to reverse engineer the thing
right.
necessarily, like you said. So on the point of still doing that kind of work, um, yeah, how would you do that? Do you have folks on your team that work closely enough with your dad that they can also, bring that level of skill set, or have your
Yeah.
brothers, how's that happening?
So the thing about when my dad was doing this was he wasn't doing it alone, and he wasn't necessarily doing it with full-time employees. He was doing it with friends that he went to school with who had the engineering
Hmm.
degrees, who we still have access to. They still want to help us. They still want to give us their ideas. They still want to
Right.
help us with, like, solving the electrical components. Like, there was so much that went into this, and he didn't do it alone. And, he may have designed the the whatever machine he was going to build. My brother can also design whatever machine is going to be built.
Hmm.
And for all the stuff that my brother doesn't know, my dad probably didn't know either, but he knew people, and we still know those same people. So that's
Mm.
why we have some confidence that if we were really, tasked with solving a problem, we have the resources, we have the phone numbers of people, we have the connections to those same exact people to help us. And
Hmm.
we're all my sister's a little bit younger than us, me and my brother, but we're in our 30s. Like, we have friends too that did the same things
Sure.
my dad friends did, and we're the next generation, and we're trying to prove ourselves and prove our worth and prove why we're here still to this day, even after, a pretty rocky year and a half. So
Hmm.
yeah, that was really
Well,
important is like my dad wasn't doing it all alone and we still have those same resources and maybe more.
right. Yeah. Well, kudos to you. That's inspiring to hear you just so dedicated to carry on the journey, the legacy of what he built, but re-envision it, in your own to make sure you have a sustainable, growing business into the future. That's
Yeah.
yeah. We need way more. There's too many stories of businesses that just shut down. When the founders, leave the business for one reason or another. And at this time in our country's history, we need those shops continuing. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely
Um,
not easy. It's not easy at all, but it's worth doing. And that's really
yeah,
important. It's worth doing.
sure, sure. So in this transition to being more of a build to print job shop, what are some of the things you've had to change, to learn, to find those clients, build the processes, whatever it might be. Well, yeah, what's that look like?
So that looks a lot like getting certification. So right out the gate, we got our woman-owned business certification, and then we got our ITAR certification, and we've been actively working on our ISO 9001, 2015 certification. It's a lot of putting certifications in place and proving that we
Hmm.
can do the process just to kind of get back up to those, you know, bigger jobs that, we need to pay the bills. We
Right.
know what it takes. We know that we have the capabilities to do them. We had a lot of processes in place even before our dad died because we were, part job shop, not all job shop, part job
Hmm.
shop. But when we inherited the company, it was really time to take a very close look at things that were working, things that weren't working, and start addressing, what needs to be done.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. Um, I'm sorry, what was it? I
Yeah, just
totally lost.
the changes about moving into a job shop. So did you approach either the existing customers or new customers? And they said, yeah, we'd love to give you work, but you got to get ITAR or ISO or.
Yeah, so that's kind yeah, we've been approaching, we've been basically tearing out our customer base and trying to just make those connections again, making new connections. And what we're finding is a lot of like the bigger companies, need those certifications. So that's kind of the journey we're on is getting those
Mm-hmm.
certifications in place so that we can maintain the same customers that we had, but
Yep.
do their job shop work versus their specialty work, which you don't necessarily need all that red tape for their specialty work. They just have a
Got
problem.
it.
They need it solved immediately. So
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
So
that's why
in
we
this
were able
process,
to, oh, sorry.
no, please continue.
That's why we were able to not have a lot of those things for so long is because we were doing something that nobody else was going to do.
Yeah, yeah. And it's going into a machine, not the production product. So there's different
Right.
rules about what you need. So
Yes.
have you been? Are most of your clients local? Are they? Have you been going to physically sit down with them, or just get on the call, get on Zoom calls? Like, how are you reaching out and trying to build these personal connections now with you that your father had before?
It's a lot of Zoom calls. It's we
Okay.
we service all of the United States. We have customers in California and customers in Texas, and you know we're very lucky that in Massachusetts we also have those big companies literally in our at our back door.
Hmm.
So I do get to go visit a little bit here and there, and I love when I reach out to a potential new engineer or new buyer and they're like, "Oh, we've seen your logo in our facility already." I'm like, "Yeah, we made those, but we can also do job shop work. So like, do you have any of that
Hmm.
type of work too?" So yeah, it
Sure.
definitely looks different these days, trying to just encourage them that we are the same business, but maybe a little better. But
Hmm.
without those certifications in place, they're kind of a little bit hesitant. So that's why we're working really
Yeah.
hard to get, our certifications, or most of the ISO certifications is where they're kind of drawing
Right.
the line right now. So
Okay.
hopefully soon.
Yeah. And with the women-owned business certification, is that has that opened any doors with government work, or yeah, how does that play into the the variables?
Yeah, so it does open doors for government work. So this is also still a learning curve for me. Like I can see the work, I'm asked to bid on it, but then there's usually something that I don't quite understand, and I have to go to an external resource. So I've definitely been spending a lot of time building my resources on how to apply for this government work because they don't make
Hmm.
it cut and dry. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Sure.
Um, so I've definitely I spend a lot of time in webinars. I spend a lot of time researching, reaching out to people.
Hmm.
Um, but the woman-owned business is definitely the reason I did that was for the government work. So
Right.
hopefully we're in that direction, we're in the right
Okay.
direction for that.
Yeah, yeah. Have you engaged with your local MEP to help with some of that education?
I just learned about them and I've been actually in meetings with them for like the last 2 weeks, and I have a
Oh,
great
nice.
contact over there who's helping me with so many things. So
Oh,
yeah,
I'm not
yep,
surprised. I'm glad that they came onto your radar. It's an
yeah,
incredible network all around the country.
yeah.
So, what kind of things have they been able to help you with, just so others that may not know what MEP is and what they can
Um,
offer?
they are helping us apply for a grant to get more equipment in our building to increase our capabilities. Right now, we are primarily a three-axis machine
Hmm.
shop. We have a lathe and stuff like that, but five-axis would really open some more doors for us. So
Hmm.
they're helping us apply for a grant through Massachusetts, where we have to come up with half of the money, but they give us the other half of the money. That was kind of the
Right.
first thing that we're working on with them. But they also put me in touch with business advisors to answer any questions that I may not have readily the answer for after my dad passed
Hmm.
away. As much as I
Hmm.
was taught, there was still a lot that lived inside his brain. Um,
Sure.
and and my mom was primarily the bookkeeper. Like she knew the finances and things like that, but my dad knew so much more about the running the business side of it. And I didn't
Hmm.
get all that information before he passed away. So they've been
Right.
really, really helping me make more connections with people that could further my business, right down to like training, like sales training or just business management training, all the things that my dad was really good at that I've been
Hmm.
learning. But
Right.
it's only a year and a half in of me really managing a much bigger team. I owned my own business prior to taking this one on, but I
Okay.
was a photographer. I
Sure.
managed myself and I
Right.
managed my own books and my own customers. So the skills are
Sure.
really really translated. But now I have employees, and I had to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
make sure that I'm like building safe environments and making sure my team feels heard and like we're following procedures and everybody just all the management skills that you get over
Hmm.
time that my dad was very good at, and now I'm working to fill those
Yeah.
shoes.
What does your team look like today in terms of
So
folks?
we are a team of seven.
Okay.
We have three of those are owners. So it's my brother, John, my sister, Megan. They both do the machine work. They are the shop managers. We have our quality control. We have dedicated quality control. Katie. We have my purchaser, Melissa. My office manager, Audrey. And then we have our co-op student, Paula. I feel like I'm missing somebody. I think that's everybody. So we're
Okay.
also a female run shop too. We only have one male
Yeah.
on our staff.
I love it. I love it. How does your
Yeah.
brother feel?
Um, I don't think he minds. Every time I'm like, oh,
That's
how
awesome.
how do you feel about like being the only male? He's like, I just want to make stuff. He just,
That's
that's it.
that's all that matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Um, how yeah, when how was it for your employees when your dad passed, and what did you have to do to, assuming they were there through that transition, you haven't hired them later, just reassure them? Yeah. Can you share a little bit about that?
So for the most part, the employees that were here when he passed, we're all kind of like family. My
Okay.
purchaser, Melissa, she's actually my cousin, and my office
Okay.
manager is like one of my best friends. So we everybody kind of already knew what was going on and what we
Hmm.
were planning to do with the company after that. Um,
Right.
we brought on our co-op students after the fact. and we brought on our quality control person after the fact. So
Okay.
um,
Got it.
yeah,
Got
so
it.
we've added to our staff since then. But the
Sure.
core people, we just knew we were gonna put our heads down and get to work, and there wasn't any hesitation about next steps. It was okay, what are we doing, or how are we gonna do
Yeah.
this? Not, oh no. It was never
Yeah.
like a fear. It was, let's get
Sure.
to work.
And they're all in, right beside you,
Yep.
doing the work to make sure you guys succeed.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, just touching a little more on that women owned and ran business. Have you, hopefully, clients and vendors and everything have, welcomed you with open arms? Have you had any obstacles around, being a woman owned business?
Um,
I know,
no,
I know I hear sometimes stories, through LinkedIn or wherever where, you're not as well received or welcomed or taken seriously. And I know it's not where it needs to be. The industry's not where it needs to be
yeah.
yet. So love to have your thoughts on that.
It's definitely been a challenge. I feel like, when my dad first passed away and we were taking over the business, some of the customers were a little bit more open to the idea of giving us work. But then once they found out that we were a woman-run business, not just woman-owned business, and that there was
Hmm.
not a lot of men on the staff, I've definitely seen our sales drop off a bit. And I hate to say
Hmm.
like that's the reason why, because I don't know for sure. But the more they
Right.
learned and the more we kind of advertise what I thought was going to be this great thing, I've noticed our sales decreasing. So it's
Mm.
I don't want to go out and say like, yes, that's the exact reason why, but it's
Sure.
hard to ignore.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's hard to know what to say about that, but
Yeah. I will say on the flip side of that is, there are also companies that are like, yes, we love this. So
sure.
it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
older school customers that maybe
Hmm.
aren't so trusting these days, but that it's hard to pinpoint exactly what that reason is. It's
Sure.
just the more we
Yeah.
advertise our women run
Yeah.
business, the more it seems to drop off a little bit. But we'll keep pushing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's change is afoot for sure in the
Yeah.
industry, and the younger generation is definitely embracing it, uh, and some of the olders as well. But we still have work to do, and I appreciate you trailblazing and really celebrating that.
Yeah. It's something to be
It's
celebrated. It's awesome that
absolutely,
we're here.
absolutely. We need we need everyone involved in manufacturing, because it's so essential to the country. It's so essential to our economy.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities, and we all know there's not nearly enough people in the business of all kinds. So we
Yeah.
need more. To that point, I saw a post about your sister as VP of Skills USA in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
or alumni. And so yeah, love to have you share about that and how you're helping, um, you know, get interest for young people in manufacturing or.
Sure. So both my brother and sister went to trade schools. My brother did go for machine tech. My sister went for cosmetology.
Hmm.
The girls were a little rebellious. We did not want to do this for a while.
Totally get it.
As 16, 17 years old, we are like, no, we have bigger plans. But what Megan did was so what skills is basically a competition where schools in the entire state get together and compete against other schools in their trade program. So like machine tech would compete against other machine tech students based
Hmm.
off of a number of competitions. And it really encouraged the students to refine their skills. So when Megan graduated, the first thing she did was join the alumni board for Skills USA because she knew that down the line, like we really needed to foster education in the trades.
Hmm.
So she's been doing this for years now. Um, and what her responsibility is I wish I brought her in for this conversation, but um, she is heavily involved in making sure that the wage gap, or the labor gap, I should say, is
Hmm.
closed,
Hmm.
encouraging students and kids to join these tech schools. And the tech schools in Massachusetts, at least in our area, are booming. Like they have to turn, like my daughter applied to high school this year and they are only taking 1,200 students and over 2,500 applied. So
Wow.
yeah, the way the labor gap is closing. Is it closing fast enough? Probably not.
Hmm.
So that's really what her focus is with Skills USA, is to really foster and nurture and look out for these kids,
Yeah.
um, moving forward. And
And is the co-op student that you hired come through one of those programs?
yeah, so our co-op student Paula comes out of Greater Lawrence Tech, and she works with us every other week.
Okay.
And we train her on our processes and our procedures and our machines. And she's actually like the machine shop, the Greater Lawrence Tech program is so good that um, when these kids come out, we can really train them on our shop specifically and then give them a blueprint and they can go set up a machine. Like there, it's so good to see that these skills are really,
Wow.
really being applied and taught
That's
well.
yeah, that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
I know that back at our shop, we always had a couple of employees on the board of our local tech college and their machining program. But years ago, it was pretty antiquated. You know, those graduates were not just ready to go and set up a machine. So, you know, we were helping with their curriculum and donating materials and some tooling and money and just trying to help them modernize their program so the skills they came out with were genuinely applicable to a modern shop.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful to hear that progress is being made and that there's so much demand for the school. So
Yeah.
this school that your daughter applied to is more of a technical focused school. Is
Yep.
that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Wow.
they do all the they service all the trades. So, they have machining and welding and, carpentry.
Hmm.
And but they can only take so many students
Right.
per trade. There's only so much space in the whole school, and there's a lot of kids that want to go. So
Yeah. Wow. And your
yeah,
daughter didn't get in.
we don't know. We actually find out this week.
Oh, fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Okay. So if she doesn't, she'll go to a more traditional high school. And then
yeah.
would she just work at your shop or how would she learn those technical skills that she wants to learn?
I don't know. So, I mean, right now she doesn't have an interest in machining. She actually has an interest in business.
Okay.
So she
Oh, okay.
seems like she wants to take over my job more than the machine
Okay.
side of it, which was more than I was into when I was her age. So,
Right. It's a
yeah,
good start. It's a great
yeah.
start. Yeah.
So luckily, our technical high school has a really good business program, but so does in our local high school too. So I'm not too worried. I just wanted her to have
Okay.
options. She wanted to have options.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Okay. Very good. Um, so, with trying to, also saw just today you launched a brand new website, new kind of branding. That sounds like that's probably part of your bigger strategy, longer term strategy for sales and marketing and
Yeah.
diversifying and adding new customers. Can you share a little bit about what that process has been like?
Um, a little chaotic because we thought that with how we were transitioning the business and kind of refocusing what our new product line, so to speak, would be.
Hmm.
We thought that because we were turning into this whole new business, that we needed a whole new logo and had to become like a whole new company. And
Hmm.
my husband's actually a graphic designer, and he was like, "No, you don't need to tear everything apart and completely rebrand. You just need to freshen up. You need to modernize." Um,
Hmm.
and so it was a little bit chaotic because we had different ideas of what rebranding meant. And then
Mm.
he kind of like rolled us back in and said, no, you're not rebranding. You are rebranding, but you're not rebranding. You're still the same company, but you're just going to do something a little bit different. So he
Yeah.
just kind of freshened up our traditional logo. He didn't want to get rid of anything that my dad had already designed himself. He just
Right.
wanted to give it a little bit of a modernized feel. But it took us
Mm.
a few months to kind of come in on that decision.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Sure.
definitely a little bit chaotic. A lot of
Yeah.
ideas being thrown around.
Sure, sure. But it's important though, to have, when a shop is, going out and talking to a new prospect and, getting that foot in the door, getting that first relationship, they're going to go to your website. They're going to kind of check you out. And if it looks professional, that may be the, yeah, sure. I'll take the meeting. And if it's not, just kind of looks antiquated or just not something that, would inspire confidence in them, they may not take that phone call or take that meeting with you, right?
Yeah.
So it does matter to get that good first impression.
Yeah.
So Ashley, besides finding new business and bringing new customers, what are some of the other challenges you're facing today?
A lot of our customers want us to have that ISO 9001, 2015 certificate, and it is a lot of
Mhm.
paperwork, a lot of, getting the processes in place. And until we really have that certificate, um, the bigger customers don't really want to give us a chance yet. So I would say that's definitely like
Mhm.
our biggest obstacle at the moment.
And how have you been going about learning about how to get ISO certified?
So we contacted a registrar, and they, gave us some very basic things like, here's the standard, read it. Here's a test, take it. Apply your business model and kind of fit it into these standards. Develop the
Hmm.
paperwork trails, develop the documentation trails. Um, Kind of just that's really the approach we've been taking, is really dissecting the standard one section at a time and making sure that we align with what the standard is asking for. And that's really been what that's kind of like, and it's one piece of paper at a time.
Yeah. And it's a whole new thing to learn when you're learning the
Yes.
technical side and the sales side, and
Yep.
just another thing to throw on the pile that you got to learn. How
Oh,
long have you been attempting the ISO thing?
about a year. About a year.
Okay.
And I feel like
And
every
have
time
you
we
done?
get close, they find something that we didn't quite do to the standard, and we're like, okay, let's kind of strip it
Okay.
back, reevaluate,
Right.
relearn what that part of the standard actually means, and then reapply that
Hmm.
knowledge to come up with a system
Yeah.
or a process.
Have you talked about your MEP about with your MEP about this process that you've been going through?
Yes, we did mention that to them, and they said there's some grants we could apply for, and to kind
Sure.
of help us through the process. So we're early talks on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in when my shop got certified, 2004, I think it was 20 years ago. We worked with our local MEP, with one of their ISO consultants, and they helped us get ISO. And then 2 years later, we got AS9100. But yeah, that MEP person, her name is Sarah Stewart. She's amazing. She still works there today. Um, yeah, she helped immensely in helping us understand the standard and build the processes that, allowed us to get the certification, which, like you said, does open doors for
It
sure.
does.
And, although I do want to say, in my opinion now, having done this, 20 years later, the main benefit of ISO is not just the door opening; it's the having more standardized, solid business
Yeah,
processes that just help a company run more smoothly, and
yeah,
ultimately more profitably.
definitely.
Um, and that was immensely helpful to us as a business to understand like a standardized way of running a manufacturing company and have good quality processes. Because if your processes that you're building, help you reduce scrap and rework and, make better parts faster the first time, there's no more profitable way than to get them
Exactly.
right the first time and make
Exactly.
sure you're focusing on that customer success and client, customer satisfaction. So they come back as a repeat customer. Um, yeah, so, uh, good luck with the rest of the process. I know it can be challenging.
Hmm.
But ultimately a really important thing to do.
Yeah, definitely important. Every process we put in place, definitely, I can see why it's there. I can see why companies require it. And it's funny because
Hmm.
when I first started this process, I started tearing apart all my dad's binders looking for key pieces of information. And then I realized that he had a binder of ISO, like he was ready to go maybe 15 years ago. He probably would have passed 15 years ago. He
Okay.
never did it.
Sure. Didn't
Everything
need
they
to.
asked for was in that binder. But of course now, you know, 15 years later, our processes aren't quite the same that they were 15 years prior. But I was like, wow, he was like right there. Now I have to do all this like reevaluating and, you know,
Sure.
plug and drop a little bit of what he did and, you know, kind of narrow in on the processes that we're following and just run with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I imagine that must have factored into the quality control person, quality assurance person that you hired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That
did she have experience in ISO before, or is she learning it as she goes as well?
she had a little bit of experience with ISO. She wasn't nearly as in depth as now I've come to be with it. She was mostly just, like inspecting,
Mhm.
tool
Got it.
calibration, things like of that nature. But she did
Yeah.
follow an ISO standard. She just wasn't fully aware that that's what she was doing. But then when I started bringing her, okay, this is what we're doing next. This is what she's like, oh, I've already
Right.
done this. I've already done this. I've already done this. So
Oh,
it was,
nice.
she had a lot of experience with it without ever realizing that's what it was, because a lot of companies maybe don't blast that in their employees' faces. This is this is what we're doing when they're kind of a
Hmm.
newer employee and they're just coming on and learning the process.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
maybe they're not advertising that what they're doing is part of the ISO standard, and that was kind of her case. Is she was doing a lot of the things and not realizing why she
Yeah.
was doing it. But
Got it. Okay.
she's super smart. She's picking up every little thing I throw at her. She's solving problems left and right that I didn't even know needed to be solved. So couldn't really ask
It
for.
sounds like she feels really empowered to run with it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
So I did want to ask sort of two things on the cult. Obviously, you're small business. I'm sure very family feel because it is half family.
yeah.
What is the culture like, and how has that evolved, or how have you tried to kind of reinforce, a good culture, with your dad's passing? Is there anything that you really have tried to emphasize that's been different, or is it just more of what he was doing already?
Pretty much what he was doing already. Like you said, we are a small family company. Um, any new employees that we bring on, we want to make them feel included in that small family company
Hmm.
dynamic. Um, so we we do try to embrace, like, I have kids, things happen. Sometimes
Hmm.
my kids have to come here with
Sure.
me, and I don't want anybody to ever feel like they don't have a safe job because of that. And I know
Yeah.
that can be challenging in other companies. So I want to keep up that family feel that, we're all in this together. Um, we're all here for each other. We all have the same goals and the same aspirations. So really
Hmm.
keeping up with what my dad really held like true to his heart is, no matter how big we got, he always wanted it to feel like a family run, family owned, family operated, home for people.
Yeah. That's really special. So on that, I want to sort of piece it together a little bit more. So you went off and did photography, had your own business. At one point, did you decide you wanted to come back and actually work in the family business? Was it after your dad's news that he was,
No.
sick, or before that? Yeah. And
Uh,
I'd love to know a little how you made that decision and how.
so I actually came back when I was 23, when I found out I had cancer. I was not going to be able to
Oh,
work full
wow.
time. I had to um, I had a studio. I had to close my studio. I wasn't going to be able to support that. And so my dad was like, "Yep, come on over. You always have a job here." So I came back part time while I was going through cancer treatment. And then when I was better, I had my full time job. That's when I really started to take over my mom's side of the business, learning all of the financials. And then
Right.
uh, I wasn't quite ready to give up photography. So once I got better, I dabbled on the side.
Hmm.
Always kept my business ID and all that stuff, so I could do it legally, because I that was really important to
Right.
me. Is I didn't want cancer to take away everything that I had built. But at the same time, I knew that I had this fallback where my dad was going to teach me everything I needed to know. My mom was going to teach me everything I needed to know to have a really successful career in manufacturing, even though that wasn't necessarily my first choice. So then my mom decided once I got pregnant with my son that she was going to retire and this was going to be my domain and I was going to do her job for her and she was going to hang out with him. So
That sounds like a really nice, I can imagine. I don't have grandkids yet, although I may in a few years. I'm sure I probably will in a few years, but I can, I'm glad I don't have grandkids, but I can't wait to have them. And I can totally understand your mom wanting to just spend tons of time and have you then step into her business role and take that over.
Yep.
That's a wonderful dynamic.
Yeah.
But wow, thank you for sharing about your cancer journeys. Cancer's really had a significant impact on your family.
It has. It really has. So we're hoping that the cancer's behind us and we're just going to keep moving forward.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm happy mine happened when it did because I was still young enough to refocus. I still have a lot of life left to live. And,
of course.
I bounced back pretty quickly.
Oh, wow. What a story. If I know your story is definitely inspiring to others, what would you, and there are businesses out there of all kinds that are going through transitions, family ones, small ones, deciding whether to keep it going, whether to, auction off the assets. What would you say to shops out there that are in an inflection point about what to do about the future based on what you've learned so far?
No matter how hard it is so worth it. Every time you get a new customer, you get so excited. And every time something goes your way, you get so excited. All of the hard work, as all the sleepless nights, not that I'm trying to scare anybody off, all of that becomes such a fulfilling, more fulfilling than I ever could have imagined. I had my own little photography thing. That was fun. But this level, the impact that I'm trying to make, the outreach I'm trying to maintain it's just way more fulfilling than your average job. And I would never want to go work for anyone else because of all of the things I've seen this business give to my family. I want to give back to this business as a thank you and just keep moving forward. And that's really all I can say about it. It's just the most fulfilling thing in the world.
Wow. Yeah, that was incredibly eloquently said. And I can feel that. I can feel it in your voice, how much you that means to you and how much you believe that. Awesome. So if people want to reach out to you and to Mills, how would they go about reaching out? What's the best way to contact you?
You can reach us at info@millsmachineworks.com. You can find us on the web at millsmachineworks.com. You can find Megan on posting videos on Instagram of her running machines at Mills Machine Works, I think on Instagram. We're everywhere. You can find us.
Yeah.
We're trying to have a big, loud presence about what we're trying to achieve. We have a big say on, women in manufacturing and all the good things that we can bring to the table. So we're trying to
absolutely
shout that from the rooftops. So.
Well, we'll help you do that as well. I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes and on the Machine Shop Mastery website. And Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your deep personal family's journey. It's inspiring, and I wish you nothing but the absolute best. I will definitely be, telling our clients if they have offload work, Mills Machine Works is open for business can do big long parts.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, it was really nice to get to know you a bit, and thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
All right. Take care, Ashley.
Bye.